So welcome. We're doing I guess, vlog. I think that's the term for it. We're trying some new stuff out on Jackets Online. And our YouTube page has been kind of stagnant just due to the nature of the way Georgia Tech does media these days with COVID and everything. It's just we're not doing a lot of one-on-one type interviews. So I wanted to create some different kind of content. And with Kennesaw State on the schedule this week, and Nolan Alexander joins me here, and a longtime friend and former Tech guy and the voice of the Owls. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do what would normally be maybe a podcast or a just even a Q&A. We'll do it online here and kind of talk about the game a little bit. So Nolan, do you want to kind of introduce yourselves to Tech fans who either have forgotten who you are or those who remember you, but maybe it's just been a minute since they've heard your voice.
It has been a minute. I graduated from Georgia Tech back in 2014, which I remind my wife, my last year on the flats was an incredible football season. And of course, she has the miracle on Techwood Drive. She graduated after the 2015 season. So she gets that, but I take the better football. So I graduated from Tech in 2014. This is my third season with Kennesaw State, serving as the voice of the Owls here, getting ready for the broadcast this Saturday. I'm excited for it. Do some other stuff with ESPN Wide World of Sports, previously at Bethune-Cookman in Jacksonville, where I got to broadcast at Georgia Tech for women's basketball and men's basketball. So it was fun to come back to the flats for that. I'm excited for this game on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I've had it circled for a long, long time. And believe it or not, this game was actually announced fall of my senior year, October 4th, or October 6th, 2014. And I think I've got a mark of just how long that is, if somebody wants to do the math. 6 years, 11 months, and 3 days. But,
wow.
Who's counting?
And this is the first P5 game, right? For Kennesaw. This isn't the first FBS though, right?
Correct. This is the first Power 5 game in Kennesaw State's history. The first season of competition was 2015. And for those familiar with the history of Georgia Tech, Brian Bohannon was hired from Paul Johnson's staff, built this program from scratch. They had a full practice year. You talk to anyone that was associated with that, they do not want to reminisce on that year at all, of just go and get nothing but practice for an entire season. So this is the first Power 5 game. Kennesaw State has played 2 FBS opponents before, most recently Kent State in 2019, in which the Owls came up short in overtime, and Georgia State a couple of years before. In both games, Kennesaw State had a fourth quarter lead. So FBS team's nothing new. Power 5 team is new.
So I guess just kind of what does that mean for this program for Kennesaw State? Just the I guess to be able to play a team in the Metro that's Georgia Tech with that, and then that's their first P5 game too. I imagine that has to be kind of a special moment. This has got to be sort of a special moment for the program just in general.
It is. It's a special time for the Kennesaw State community to be able to go down in Georgia Tech. Some people will see the KSU logo on their TV. It's going to be on Valley Sports South for the first time when it comes to football. We'll have people that will learn about Kennesaw State football for the first time that aren't KSU fans, aren't in the Metro Atlanta area, that are throughout the Southeast. So I think it's a great opportunity for Kennesaw State to go out and show what KSU is all about. Again, this is going to be the biggest stage for this program that it's ever been on before. And as coach, what is it that you want people to know after the game, after watching Kennesaw State? He goes, I hope that this team is able to play at its best. Hope we come out and at our best, and to know about eat. And this is a program people think spread option offense. They run the triple option. It's all option plays, run. That's the program. It's not. This is a team that has finished top 20 in total defense every year that's been around. Top 14 in total defense last spring. Before that, it was a handful of years in a row where it was number 3, number 2, number 5. It's all about what they call EAT: effort, attitude, and toughness. Option's a big part of it, but it's not just an option program. So biggest stage for the program, biggest stage for the KSU community. Over 2,300 tickets were purchased for this game by Kennesaw State for fans to go down there, for the KSU band to be there. Obviously for the players themselves, biggest stage for the players to showcase their abilities, for those that want to go on and play at the next level. So good chunk of the team, good chunk of the community will be down at Bobby Dodd Stadium, historic Grant Field on Saturday. It's going to be a fun time.
I mean, it's sort of impressive. I think they've lost 8 games in 5 years or something like in the last 5 years. They've been
Mhm.
and had double digit wins every year except for last year. They had 3 in a row of that. Just kind of impressive to see. Won the conference twice, finished second the last 2 years. To me, it's been sort of impressive what Coach Bohannon has built there. Kind of what's sort of the backbone of kind of why they're successful and
Mhm.
what they do so well.
That's it comes down to effort, attitude, and toughness. And I'm not speaking off of cliches, but when you watch Kennesaw State football, when it's been at its best, you'll see 11 hats to the football on defense. You'll see an option offense that can grind it out for 4 quarters and wins the fourth quarter. I believe just one time in Coach Bohannon's career at Kennesaw State has KSU gone into the fourth quarter with a lead and not won the football game. Only one time. Kennesaw State is the best startup in college football history. There has not been a program that has won more games as a startup in its first 5 years in college football history. So that's something Kennesaw State did back in 2019. Spring season for the Owls, one that not many people want to talk about. You know, if you look at a small sample size of 5 games and a team's 4-1, more teams often than not will say, hey, pretty good spring season, finished runner-up in the conference. But KSU talks about the gold standard a lot. And as you said, when you win the conference back-to-back years, I mean, that's the goal. Win the conference, perform the national stage. KSU came up short this offseason. There was a lot of progress for Kennesaw State. Obviously, one of the worst moments in KSU history, and me personally, the worst day of my professional career was the morning of July 1st, 2021, when KSU tragically lost one of its quarterbacks, LD Clarity, and that devastated the team. And in some ways, I think the team found an opportunity to come together, try to rally around that and play and work for LD. So the attitude on this team, that second part of effort, attitude, and toughness, has been off the charts this year. And as we know, going into preseason, I feel like you rarely hear a coach that says we don't have good chemistry or we have bad chemistry. Like no coach is going to say, yeah, our attitude's poor and we're not really gelling together. No, it's always, hey, sunshine and rainbows, right? Except for Coach Saban, maybe. But I think to speak to what Coach has said, I've seen it firsthand with these players. It's a great attitude this year. And that may not matter as much against Georgia Tech on Saturday or Wofford next Saturday or against Reinhardt on Thursday. But that matters when you get to the grind of the schedule, when you're playing your 7th, 8th game in a row after a bye week in late September, and you got to push through to be your best at the very end when KSU plays Monmouth at the end of the season. So I think that's important for KSU this
year. Just, I guess, how different is I guess the nuts and bolts of the offense versus what Coach Johnson did? I know most Tech fans are pretty familiar. They were very much in the double slot flex bone formation, would rotate slide a slot out some, but not. It seems like from talking to the Tech players this week that were here with Coach Johnson that this is a much more versatile version of the option offense, and that they like to line up in a lot of different formations and throw the ball way more, as you kind of alluded to already. Just, I guess, how different does it look to you being a guy that watched that for 4 years in college and now seeing kind of the evolution of it at Kennesaw?
Well, I think the first thing you'll notice is after the first play, there's not going to be a slot back next to Coach Bohannon, and he's going to get the call and he's going to push him back onto the field and huddle up, and the ball will be snapped with less than 10 seconds on the play clock. Kennesaw State rarely gets in a huddle. It's a spread option offense that's done out of the no huddle for same reasons that most college football teams run the no huddle right now. That's the number one difference that would stand out to me comparing what Tech fans may have seen under Coach Johnson to what they'll see on Saturday under Coach Bohannon. You're right. I don't have the passing numbers from the Johnson years compared to what Kennesaw State has done. I think you'll see a little bit more of that. I'm not going to say it's night and day by any means. With the passing routes, from what I've been able to gather, I think they're a little bit more intricate on the medium and deeper levels. But Kennesaw State, as it's done before, when it needs to pass, it's not afraid to pass at all. The Owls do have a shotgun package. Again, haven't shown that a ton over the years, but they do have the ability to get in shotgun, put 4 or 5 wide out there. So I think it's been accurately described. It's an offense that has evolved from what Coach Johnson had, and Coach Bohannon's put its own spin on it, and it's done really well.
I think one of the things that people forget too with Brian is that played receiver at Georgia and was a receivers coach for a long time until he got to Georgia Tech with Paul. It wasn't necessarily he was the quarterback guru and this guy that's totally fixated on running Coach Johnson's version of the system. And obviously he hires other guys to do the play calling, and that element to each one of those guys has brought something to it as well. So it's interesting. I'm kind of curious for myself to see. I've watched a little bit of Kennesaw State on TV, but not enough to have like a feel for where their version is. But I think it's very interesting. Kind of flipping sides here defensively. Kind of what is their look? Is it a 45? Is it multiple? Kind of what do you expect to see defensively from them, and kind of what are they trying to do other than, you talked about the eat thing, but just kind of schematically, how do they like to attack spread teams?
4-2-5 is the defense, and there have been a handful of defensive coordinators in Kennesaw State's football history. No matter who the DC is, it's been the 4-2-5, and then like most teams, as teams change their formations on offense, they'll bring in more bulk, they'll switch out, bring some nickelbacks in. But again, that total defensive numbers last year, the spring, 14th in total D, 2019, third in total defense, 2018, second in total defense, 2017, seventh in total defense, 16th, and the first year in 15, finished 14th in total defense. So there's been a lot of history of success with a 4-2-5 at Kennesaw State. And for me, Kelly, I look at position group by position group, and personally, I think the biggest matchup to watch here is the KSU D line, how it plays against the Georgia Tech offensive line. I think there's a lot of fans who will look at it and say it's the KSU option. How are they going to fare against the Tech defense? Andrew Thacker used to be an assistant at Kennesaw State, gets to see the Owls again, or for the first time now at Georgia Tech. But how that front four of Kennesaw State plays, I think, will dictate a lot in the outcome of this game. Looking at the next level at linebackers, got a veteran in Chance Bates, who took a higher role in the spring and has stepped up as a leader this year. And Xavier Reddick, a transfer out of Georgetown, led the team with 10 tackles, a guy that's come in and completely changed his mindset, how he carries himself off the field. He gave up meat this year. He's been locked in this season. Someone that came and wasn't guaranteed a starting job, worked his way into it in fall camp, had a really good game against Reinhardt. Most Kennesaw State fans, when they think of the KSU defense, will think of Bryson Armstrong, hands down the best player in Kennesaw State football history. 4-year starter at linebacker. Jerry Rice Award winner as a freshman for the best freshman in America. Transferred to UCF this year. Bittersweet for a lot of KSU fans. Started in their game against Boise State last Thursday. And to replace him, I mean, you don't replace an All-American, but I think you can find ways to replace the productivity of an All-American. So there has been 3 guys that have stepped up into that Sam role this year. Cade Loden, a sophomore who scored a defensive touchdown last year. Garland Binyard, a freshman who got a ton of reps during fall camp. And Welton Spotsville, who had a SportsCenter top 10 play with an interception at a critical time in the Thursday night game against Reinhardt. Looking at the secondary, mix of veterans there and a mix of new faces to KSU, but veterans in college football as well. Javon Singletary started at Georgia Southern in 2020, started 2 or 3 games for the Eagles, transferred to KSU. And Erwin Byrd from McEachern High School started at Maryland in 2020, a couple of games for the Terps, transferred to KSU. You got veterans Markeith Montgomery, Cole Loden as well. So it's a nice mix. You look at KSU and you don't see a ton of youth all around when bodies are healthy. And of course, that helps defensively when you've seen those same looks over and over, no matter who you're playing for teams that run the spread offense.
Kind of with what I found interesting listening to Coach Bohannon's press conference this week, obviously kind of banged up the quarterback situation. Obviously, you mentioned what happened in July, and then their quarterback got banged up, and just kind of where are things at injury wise, at least publicly, like for Kennesaw going into this game, it seems like they might be a little banged up.
Well, the good news for Kennesaw State is the Owls traditionally have always played 2 quarterbacks in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's been a set series or another quarterback will come in the 3rd or 4th series of the game, or it's each quarterback gets a couple of drives, or one goes and see who has the hot hand when it comes to second half. It was a very, very healthy, quarterback competition going into fall camp this year between Jonathan Murphy and Xavier Shepard. Coaches remarked at some points Shepard actually had the lead over Murphy, and then Murphy came on at the end and was awarded that starting role for what he did the last couple of weeks of fall camp. So going into the game last week against Reinhardt, I know the coaches were confident in both Murphy and Shepard. We'll see what happens on Saturday with how it rolls. But if you look at the box score, the numbers, Murphy's in favor of, he played a little bit more than Shepard, but you could make the argument if Shepard played as long as Murphy did, they probably have similar numbers there. Shepard's a quarterback who made his first career start against Robert Morris in the spring. Murphy's a quarterback that made his big debut 2019 against Wofford in the first round of the playoffs, set a Big South record for rushing yards by a quarterback in 2.5 quarters, ran for over 200 yards against Wofford, lifted KSU to a victory, and he's got that big play threat. So KSU is blessed with 2 quarterbacks, and we'll see how it shakes out this Saturday.
I guess kind of what are your emotions going to be like going into the radio booth and doing the whole thing at your alma mater? I imagine that's got to be kind of thrilling, emotional. I imagine there's just a lot of different things kind of that are running through your head is in this lead up into going over to Bobby Dodd on Saturday.
I'm excited. I'm ready to have some fun. I'm looking forward to a great game between the Owls and the Jackets. I think without a doubt, Kelly, this will be the first week that I will not be pulling for Georgia Tech football my entire life. I grew up loving Georgia Tech. I used to run around the concourses of Bobby Dodd in my George Godsey jersey, weaving in and out of lines at the concession stand, and watched the Jackets in the early 2000s all the way through college, and then pursuing a career in college athletics took me away from Atlanta down to Florida for about 4 years. It's been nice to get back into the area. So I'm excited for the matchup. I'm really excited to represent Kennesaw State. This program under Coach Bohannon has been awesome to work with. They have been fantastic. And there's a reason that those that go on to do different things have a lot of respect for Coach Bohannon. Here at Kennesaw State and our staff, our radio group, our communications, our marketing, our graphics, our creative team, we're building something great here at KSU. I think a lot of fans in the metro area know the brand of Kennesaw State without maybe having seen a KSU football game. And one, that speaks to winning for Kennesaw State, and 2, for how KSU athletics has been able to communicate the success of the football team. So I'm excited to represent KSU. My wife has asked what she should wear to the game on Saturday. So she's a fellow Tech grad as well. Told her you can wear gold. Just wear gold and white. Play it even. Don't. I don't know about black. It's gonna be really hot in the 80s. We know how those noon games are at Bobby Dodd sitting in the stands. He just tends to soak up in there. So I'm very excited for it. I have a lot of respect for the radio crew at Georgia Tech as well. Andy, Sean, Wiley, and Al Serraldo Jr., the spotter over there, Miller Pope, the engineer. Al Serraldo Jr. is actually a fraternity brother with my father-in-law. So I grew up listening to Wes, Brandon when he was here, listen to Andy now. I wish I had more opportunities to listen to Al Serraldo Sr., but I've come across his clips and have a great respect for him. So there's a long tradition of excellent radio broadcasters at Georgia Tech, and I'm just excited to sit next door and do our best to call the game on Saturday.
You didn't have your wife like cut a shirt in half and sew it together like a half Kennesaw, like you see some of these parents do? They have like the house divided shirt that they sewed themselves together, anything like that? Like a Tech U shirt?
She's really crafty, but she has not come up with that. So I think she's just going to find a standard gold color to wear. Maybe if there's one that's in between the Kennesaw gold and the Georgia Tech gold, which, by the way, when Kennesaw State was started back in 1965, Horace Sturgis, the first president, chose the colors black and gold from UGA and Georgia Tech. So the black from UGA and the tech from or the gold from Georgia Tech. So KSU is a school that started with an influence from both the big state schools. But yeah, no half and half for her. We both, grew up Tech fans as well. We met from Rec Club at Georgia Tech, actually. So got a lot of fondness for the 1930 Ford Model A Sport Coupe. Actually had someone that's almost run over by it after the game on Saturday. Someone that I'm friends with, he's like, "Hey, this car is driving out." I was like, "What do you mean car? Like, let me sit down and explain the history of this to you. You don't just call it a car. Get out of here." but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a noon game at Bobby Dodd, so it's going to be sunshiny and hot. I've got my sunglasses, probably a little sunscreen up there in the radio booth. It's an excellent view of the game. Used to work for the communication staff at Georgia Tech when I was an undergrad, so familiar with the press box at Bobby Dodd, and excited to be up there, see you and some other members of the media.
Cool. Are you is there any friendly wager with Wiley or anything like that you guys have going on? Has there been any trash talk this week between the former Tech broadcasters?
No trash talk between Wiley and me that I can think of. No, I'm just kidding. No trash talk between Wiley and me. We don't have any friendly wagers on this one. I'm sure we'll be up there and we'll be joking around. So Wiley's a great broadcaster for Georgia Tech, as are Andy and Sean. I know they'll put on a good broadcast on Saturday, but it'll be good to see all those guys. I had a chance to, see Wiley down at Tech a little bit this spring for KSU baseball. Played a 3-game series, 2 at Russ Chandler Stadium, McNeese Ballpark, and then 1 up here at Stillwell Stadium. So it was good to see them then, and yeah, looking forward to it.
And I won't ask you to make a prediction because obviously it's tough. You're a broadcaster and all that, but I'm just curious, what do you think Kennesaw has to do to win this game? Like, what are the, I guess, keys for them to come out on top?
So I wrote down a few things. Let me reference it here. The first thing that it's hard to quantify because there's so many new members of special teams, but special teams have to be special for KSU. Win the battle of hidden yardage and convert if field goal opportunities present themselves. Kennesaw State special teams wasn't at its best against Reinhardt. The Owls return an all-conference kicker in Nathan Robertson. He missed one against Reinhardt. He was all-conference after the spring preseason all-conference this year. It's in his 3rd year. Yeah, spring messed me up.
Yeah, spring season is definitely weird for anyone that went through that.
Yeah, he's in his 3rd full season, I should say, as a kicker for Kennesaw State. New punter this year, just like Georgia Tech. So the Owls trotted out Ben Moran, a freshman out of North Cobb up here in Ackworth, against Reinhardt. And of course, Georgia Tech had David Shanahan handling the punt. So 2 new punters. So it's kind of tough to qualify for punt yardage and hitting yardage there because they're both so new. That's important. And then what happens on kickoffs? Kennesaw State has Robertson handling kickoffs predominantly for the first time. Gavin Stewart did a really good job for Georgia Tech, bunting those out of the back of the end zone. So that hidden yardage battle is really important to me. Second thing is overcoming any penalties that come your way. There were 6 FCS teams that upset FBS teams last week, highlighted by Montana taking down number 20 Washington. In those games, the FCS teams were penalized on average 6.67 times a ball game for about 64 yards. FBS teams 6.5 for about 60 yards, with an outlier being Tulsa, is penalized 12 times for 122. You take that out, FBS teams are penalized 5.4 for 48 on average. So if Kennesaw State is presented itself with a first or second and long situation, can the Owls at least get halfback there? The cliche is used so many times, stay on schedule when it comes to an option offense. If something like that happens, can KSU avoid finding itself in the 3rd and 12, which I don't care what offense you're running. 3rd and 12 isn't ideal for an option, a spread, a pro-style I formation, wing tee, whatever you want. So can the Owls find themselves in manageable situations when those penalties arise? Because from the KSU game and Georgia Tech's game last week, those games really came down to 3 or 4 plays, as do most football games. There are 3 or 4 plays in the KSU game where that score doesn't end up being 35-25. It can be a lopsided win for KSU. And I think Tech fans know there's probably 3 or 4 plays in that Northern Illinois game where it's not a Tech loss. And if the Jackets do a few things different, maybe a lopsided victory for Georgia Tech. So those are the first 2 things. And something more that I found was kind of interesting because of the notes of Georgia Tech, how often the Jackets were able to move the ball on the plus side of the 50, but not punch it in for a touchdown. So I thought, well, and watching the game too, it wasn't really 3rd downs because Tech, I believe, was 9 of 18 on 3rd downs in the ball game. And the Jackets seemed to have some success on 1st down. So what happened on 2nd downs? So in plus situations, Georgia Tech in the game against Northern Illinois averaged 1.4 yards per play on 2nd downs.
Oof.
So it didn't put the Jackets in great position on 3rd downs. In the red zone is an average of 2.5 yards per play. And as the game went on, Tech got better because to start out with, it was 5 passes, accumulating a total of -1 yards on pass plays. After that, running the football with Jordan Yates, Mason, and Gibbs back there in the backfield. And the last being a touchdown run of 4 yards. That got a little bit more success for Georgia Tech. For Kennesaw State on the other side, how did the Owls do against Reinhardt on Thursday when the Eagles had the ball on the plus side of the 50 on second downs? Gave them an average of 8.6 yards per play. So when it comes to second down there, because first downs, coordinators, the playbook's a little bit more open, right? Something doesn't work out on first down and second down, you need to find yourself in a third and manageable situation. And then we all know the importance of third downs, where Georgia Tech did a good job of that on offense. Kennesaw State had some success as well. So for me, what's in between? How can you position yourself well on third downs and in second downs? That stat stood out to me. The 1.4 for Georgia Tech on the plus side of the 50, the 8.6 for Kennesaw State defensively on its own side of the 50. So those three things: special teams to be special, penalties, if you get in a first or a second and long, can you put yourself in a third and manageable? And then second down defensively for the Owls, can you find a way to buckle up and put Georgia Tech in a difficult third and medium and third and long situation?
I was wondering when you were talking about, staying on schedule, one of Paul Johnson's favorite cliched things he liked to talk about. How often does Brian go for it on the fourth downs? Like, and is he as much of a gambler as Paul was with that? Just, if it was fourth and short, we're going for it, or at least running the freeze play.
Yes. Yes. That hasn't changed. Coach evolved a little bit in some other things he does with the offense, but that part stayed the same for sure.
Well, it's good to see some things like that. That was one of the things I actually enjoyed about Coach Johnson, that he believed in his offense enough that he was going to try to go for it, occasionally to his own detriment. But, I always found that it's kind of a way to give your team energy if you do pick up that first down, and to be aggressive to try to win the game. So that's kind of good to hear that. Looking forward, does Kennesaw, I haven't looked at their future schedules. Are there other games like this coming down the pipe, or is this sort of an anomaly playing the P5 team, or do they have some other kind of cool non-conference games coming up in the future?
So first off, the schedule this year, for those that are familiar with teams in the FCS, is the most difficult in Kennesaw State's history. After this, the Owls are on the road at Wofford, get a bye week, and then host Jacksonville State. So it's 3 teams in the top 25 in the preseason polls from FCS Stats Perform. 1 team in Wofford that's been in the playoffs the last 2 out of 3 years, and Georgia Tech, obviously, first Power 5 teams, the most difficult one. Looking ahead to next year, Cincinnati's on the schedule, going up to Nippert Stadium. Excited for that one. Get some Skyline chili. Probably not before I go on air.
Yeah, I would say do that after. That's an after move.
Might be a fun post-game meal. And then it was recently announced in the Savannah Morning News, Kennesaw State, Georgia Southern in 2025. So what's unique with the scheduling for KSU, the Owls are going from the Big South Conference into the A-Sun Conference, which right now only has about 5 football playing schools. It's merging with a WAC this fall to be an AQ7 to can automatically get to the playoffs. Well, ACC, you only got to worry about 3 non-conference games, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got your conference scheduled up. Kennesaw State, 4, 5 conference games right now. Hopefully more will be added. But out of an 11-game schedule, that's a lot of games to try to find. And I'm not repeating anything that anyone else has said, but let's be obvious. Okay. Now, how many teams want to sign up to play spread option football?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that I think will be announced in the future that's kind of still out there compared to what you get in the FBS, where games are scheduled for 2040. I mean, I feel like we're going to have a 2050 game that it's going to come out next week, but those are scheduled way in advance. So it'll be interesting. There's going to be a lot of fun non-conference matchups for KSU fans in the future. So Cincinnati next year, that's the big one after this.
That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they're in the Big 12 at that point. You never know with the way things are going, how quickly that'll happen or not. But definitely that'll be an interesting game. I think it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday between these 2 teams. So very much a must win for Georgia Tech, and I think Kennesaw is just playing with the house money in this one, and I think that's a good position to be in if you're a Kennesaw State fan and you watch that Citadel game and some of the other games that Coach Collins' teams had against Navy or Army. I think there's some hope against how they've struggled with some option teams in the past, that that definitely will make this probably a more interesting game than I think on paper or even the spread maybe indicates. But it'll be definitely interesting. I think you're gonna have a busy day calling some touchdowns either way, Nolan. And I appreciate you giving us your time and telling a little bit of your story as well. And we've stayed in touch throughout this whole time since you left Tech. So it's great to see you doing well. And you know, and obviously Coach Bohannon's an old friend, and Liam Klein and a lot of those guys. So it'll be cool to see them come back. I know most of them haven't really spent much time back on the flats since they left. So I think it's going to be a really interesting day. And um, I guess kind of any final thoughts about just kind of what's going through your head as you head into this game Saturday?
I think you said a lot of it, Kelly. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. Everyone's looking forward to it. I know Kennesaw State wants to come out and be at its best. So the fans be at their best, football team be at its best, coaches be at their best. I know Georgia Tech's going to be anxious to try to go out there and get its first win of the season. One other thing that I do want to say, I know this will be Heroes Day at Georgia Tech on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I want to say thank you to anyone that has served our country in any sort of capacity, for those that are currently serving our country, for those that have served our country, whether it's in the military, it's as a first responder, firefighter, police officer, paramedic. Thank you for everything that you've done. This is a difficult time in our country for a lot of different reasons right now. So I look forward to saying thank you to all of the heroes that will be honored pregame on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and should be a atmospheric and patriotic day on the flats.
Yeah, absolutely. I can still remember I was in college on 9/11 and the hearing kind of what was going on as my alarm went off. As a college student, obviously wasn't up super early, but then my roommates coming home and being freaked out. And, you know, and we've been through a lot really since then, you know, with COVID and everything. And, you know, I think it is a great time to honor these people that are doing amazing work and putting their lives on the line, especially right now with COVID on a daily basis. So
Mhm.
if you have people like that in your family or know them, it's a good time to reach out and just kind of give them a pat on the back. Every little bit of encouragement helps, I think, with these amazing people. And then certainly our military who put their lives on the line, and firefighters and cops and paramedics and all of those people, even things like the Coast Guard that people don't think about, that, you know, or border patrols or whatever. Like there's lots of layers to all of that stuff. And I think people take a lot of that for granted on in their daily lives. And it's just kind of a great time to say thank you. And if you run into somebody, be nice. You know, something I always try to do is if I see one of those people is just say something nice to them. Like, you know, if you're out picking up food or whatever it is, because I think it brightens their day because they see a lot of bad things. And, you know, football is a fun game. We all love it. And I think it's great to have a moment to kind of celebrate these people. And I'm, you know, excited they're doing something at Georgia Tech, and both these teams can participate in it this weekend.
Absolutely. I agree with you there, Kelly.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Nolan. I appreciate your time. You're up in the press box getting ready for going through your notes. I'm sure you probably saw what Wes used to do. I'm sure you've taken a page out of that and have the highlighters and the pages of stuff that you go through. And I think people have no idea the amount of prep that goes in for a play-by-play guy or color guy for a football game. You know, I used to see Wes. I would leave Georgia Tech at 7, 8 o'clock at night after a practice, and Wes would be sitting in his office working, and I'd go in and talk to him for a couple minutes, and he'd be, have all this stuff out and game film on and breaking it down. And I think people don't realize the level of dedication it takes just to do that and, and you're at Kennesaw, a place where that's still building up. So you don't have, maybe the same audience that a lot of these other people do. So it's a lot of work for you. And I think people definitely should appreciate the time that you guys put into that and the amount of work too.
Well, I appreciate it, Kelly. It's an incredible opportunity to be able to do this. There's not many Division I broadcasting jobs out there. I'm incredibly thankful for it to be able to do it back near Atlanta. I grew up in Gwinnett County, so being able to do this near where I grew up, and my wife and I have been able to plant our roots here in Cobb County, is more than I could ever ask for. So I want to do my best, not take anything for granted, give it my all when it comes to preparation. And then when it comes to game day, be entertaining, be informative, and be captivating, and go out there and have some fun. we get to call sports for a living. That's fun. That's what people dream of. You get to cover sports for a living. That's fun. That's what a lot of people wish they could be doing. So you got to remember to go out there and make it entertaining and have a good time.
Yeah, people need to remember that it's supposed to be fun. It's not life or death. So, you don't have to take every game as life or death, and maybe for the coaches, but not for fans. And just try to enjoy yourself, enjoy the moments, and enjoy that we're getting to sit and watch these games in person again, and all of those things as well. But thanks, Nolan. I appreciate it, and we'll be in touch, and maybe we'll talk in the off season again.
All right. I'll see you out there on Saturday, Kelly.
All right, thanks, buddy.